Oh yeah, I definitely remember those first few times sitting there, and actually more than the first few times, the first few weeks, sitting there in my mindfulness and meditation practices and just asking myself, what is this all about? This coming back to the breath, and what does it have to do with anything really relevant in my life? One of the things that I learned early on wasn't that meditation was about emptying my mind and coming to this Zen state, as much as it was about having an inventory and knowing what was going on in my brain and all of the different inputs and impulses that my body and my mind were just on automatic pilot reacting to. And then as time went on, I began to recognize that I could get to a place where all these inputs were coming in and all these impulses were coming in just as fast as ever, but they weren't having me react to them. I was able to create some space between all of these inputs coming in and then how I reacted to them. So that newfound ability to create space, I soon realized, carried over into my real world. And it helped me basically kick my ice cream addiction. Anyone who's known me for any portion of my life knows that I love ice cream. In college, I had my food budget, and if I was going through the store and ice cream was on sale, guess what? I might just be eating ice cream that week for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. At one point in my life, I found myself looking at my ice cream habits and going, this is a little bit more than just liking ice cream. It had gotten to the point where on Friday nights after work and I'm driving home, I would stop at the grocery store, pick out my favorite pint of ice cream, and I would begin to eat it as I left the store. I would push it up from the bottom like a push-up pop and eat it out of the top of the container. No spoon or utensils. And the crazy thing was, that impulse to eat that ice cream began about Friday afternoon, right after lunch, and grow even more as I'm driving home. And as I began to go down certain roads, it was just this huge impulse. And all I could think about going through my mind that whole time I'm driving home is ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. This ice cream, that ice cream. Which one am I going to choose? Where am I going to choose? Am I going to get a half gallon, a pint? Going on and on and on. And it would just build and build and build. And it was automatic pilot. And I knew I had to put a change to this. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't one little breathing exercise and it was gone. But through my breathing exercises, I began to realize that space I could create within an impulse. And so I would have that impulse to start thinking about the ice cream. And I go, hey, I've got work to do. There's something else I need to do. And I would change my focus to begin to downplay it. Then I would get in my car and I'd start driving home and I'd get that impulse. And I would say, hey, this is what's going on. And, over the first couple of weeks, over the first month, the truth is those impulses won out more times than not. I would end up, picking up the ice cream. But then I would use my impulse control not to start eating the ice cream until I got home. Then I would use my impulse control not to try to eat all of it. And as time went on, when those impulses came, I was able to create more and more space between that impulse. Then with that added space, what I was able to do was begin to create new inroads and new habits and new pathways that eventually overrode those old habits that I'd gotten into when it came to eating ice cream. So what the simple practice of the day of coming back to the breath did was give me that tool of creating space, which eventually allowed me to put whatever I wanted into that space and not be driven by distraction or impulse, but rather be led by the things that I wanted in my life. Then as I'm driving down the road and I get to the end and there's a little bit of milky cream at the bottom, I would just sit back and enjoy the last little taste of goodness.